But it's not about whether or not COVID-19 is real or not, because deep down, you know it's real. But you can't handle the reality that if for 1 second you take this thing seriously and stop buying into the ridiculous, these conspiracy theories that make you would rather look like a moron and put your family at risk. You would rather engage in the highest level of ignorance and stupidity and allow your family members to die than to come to grips with the fact that you have embraced an ideology and a political party and a political philosophy that is suicidal, that is ignorant, that is rooted in stupidity and bigotry, and now that bigotry and ignorance is going to get people you love killed.
Yes, it is Friday, July 17th, 2020. Nothing like coming back on an uplifting note, everybody. That was Benjamin Dixon for The Benjamin Dixon Show. Yes, do check him out. But this is Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. We're back from vacation, ready to go, ready to rumble. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week, I talk to our capital failed state survivor, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. On today's show, I'll warn you right off the bat, it's going to be a bit of a freewheeling thing. We had a ton of stuff that is just going on, and we just kind of said, well, you know what? There's no way we're going to be able to pile it all into this, so we're just going to let it roll today. But some things we may talk about might be just like, hey, about why you might want to get on that midnight train out of Georgia. That's if you can find a state that will have you. That comes after Georgian Governor Kemp says that no municipality can impose a mask ordinance, and he's willing to sue Atlanta's mayor over it. Just let that sink in for a minute. Just let that sink in. Oh, yeah, and we've got secret federal police in, cities around the country abducting people. That's weird. Gee, don't know what freaking dystopian film I've seen that in. Well, teachers across the country are beginning to organize and protest against their state's push for in-person school this fall. No. It's not that they don't want to get back to school. It's not that they don't think the kids need to get back to school. That's not the reason. The reason is their state is just basically ready to kind of throw those teachers on the COVID pyre in order to kind of have it happen. So teachers are beginning to stand up from Texas to Missouri across the country. And they're kind of out protesting. There's protests today in Missouri, I believe, right? In Texas, there's been protests, right? And I'm going to see it's going to be happening right here in Pennsylvania in no time. It's been pretty crazy. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about the reopening a little bit. I'm reading this right now, and it's just kind of like reinforcing how insane things have actually gotten right now. Anyways, then there's Donald Trump. You remember that guy? Freaking idiot in chief. Well, yeah, Donald Trump and the Republican National Committee, have filed a series of lawsuits in Pennsylvania. Why Pennsylvania, I wonder? Aiming to suppress hundreds of thousands of voters in the Commonwealth. That's right. They're going after technicalities with mail-in ballots, dropboxes for those mail-in ballots, and allowing out-of-county poll watchers to intimidate voters of color in urban centers. You know what we're talking about? QAnon is going to be guarding the polls, man. I'm telling you. Because, who else is there left at this point? Who else is there left? And they're going to spread COVID while they're at it, because none of them are wearing the masks. Big conspiracy. Oh, yeah, APSCUF, my union, there was a survey that came out. It actually made it into the papers. Can you believe it? Well, that's what there was, huge percentage of the faculty. I can't remember, it was 80% or something like that of the faculty actually responded to, which is huge for a survey, maybe 70%. But 70% of those faculty who responded basically said they're seriously concerned about returning to face-to-face instruction in the fall. 60% of those respondents said the fall should be all remote instruction is where it's possible. And over 40% reported to having some type of underlying medical condition that the CDC says puts them more at risk, right? So once again, well, we're going to talk a lot about this. I'm not going to go on this now. But this is a perfect example, right? Everything's we got to put the students, we got to keep the students safe, clerical staff, faculty, food service workers, everyone else, we don't care about you. You guys, again, onto the pyre. But no worries. Posse Chancellor Greenstein basically lays his card on the table calling for the merger of 6 state-owned universities. Yep, his plan looks to merge California with Clarion, Edinburgh with Slippery Rock, and Mansfield with Lock Haven. I guess the pandemic presents an opportunity that he just couldn't refuse. All right, we saw this coming. I mean, we talked about this like multiple times this summer. We saw this coming. This was clear to anybody who was paying attention. And frankly, there is no force right now that is capable of the pushback against that. And I'll talk a little bit about that too as well. Again, when you squander the power you build in a strike, this is where we're left. And we'll get into some beer releases. We'll get into some kind of what the hell's been going on in our lives since there and today's last call. I don't know. We'll get into something. Who knows? Who knows? I'm just happy. Frankly, I'm happy to be back in this chair. Although it was, Sean's got an amazing shirt that you can all see. Right, there you go. Quit your day job. That's right.
Everyone should quit their day job.
There you go. Oh, God, I'm all over the place. But tune into the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can tune in the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And you make sure to download the Rick Smith Show's daily podcast on iTunes, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts. I want to thank all of our members who've been with us from the beginning, and members, you will not be squandered, as we're going to have some new programming that we're going to talk a little about on the show today that I'm going to be kind of starting up. We're going to get some more interviews. It's going to be at least 2 shows a week. It's going to be pretty awesome. Because if we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. You can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We're expanding our network as we prepare for the fight of our lives, the fight for the future in 2020. We're all in for the fight. And now we need you. We're not asking you to break the bank, just ask you to become a member for the price for good beer once a month. Help keep the media in the movement in the media. Become a member for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. And there we have it. Sean, man, welcome back. I got to say, it's great to see you. It's really good to see you. I've been out of here for about 2 weeks, and kind of coming back, I was really looking forward to kind of catching up and getting back in this chair for the week.
Yeah, I mean, where do we begin?
I don't know. I mean, I do have to say is one thing about being away. I'll get this out of the way. One thing about being away for a little bit, it just kind of put my head back in a different kind of perspective on things. I mean, number one, it was like realizing, how much a kind of a personal impact all this COVID stuff has had on me, and like in ways that I hadn't really kind of noticed. And it took, some time just to kind of like deplug, like an unplug from things to really to kind of realize that impact it had on kind of personally. It's weird. But it's also kind of helped clarify for me, some things about kind of going forward and trying to find more kind of sustainable ways to kind of engage about this stuff, because there's so often, especially not just here and out the Good podcast, but you're doing this kind of politics stuff, especially in this context, it's exhausting. Because it feels like you're just, at least it feels to me, it's like very often it's like you bang your head against the wall, and you can see what's happening right in front of you, right? And then it seems like nobody else is kind of on board, and so you're kind of like screaming into the wilderness sometimes, or risking kind of getting cynical about stuff, right? That, well, screw it. Well, hey, what the hell? Let's roll the dice. Let it go. Let's go. Let's go for this ride and see which hell we end up in. I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing like how much worse things have gotten within the past couple of weeks.
I find it like I told you before the show. I said, I came back. I was like, okay, see how bad things were, and I came back and I feel like, God, while I was gone, people were dousing the fire with like gallons of gasoline. I mean, it's phenomenal watching what's happening in Texas, the Southwest, Florida, Georgia, and it's amazing that these people still don't fucking get it. Like masks are still. You know what I mean? Like, people still aren't wearing masks. Did you there was a story about a Tampa Bay minor leaguer, right, for the Devil Rays, who's like from Philadelphia or from Pennsylvania,
And he's just like, like in Pennsylvania, walking around, everyone's wearing a mask, everyone's cool about it, no one says anything to you. He's like, get down to Florida for fucking training, and like you wear a mask, and people are giving you dirty looks. They're starting to breathe on you, getting up in your face and shit like that. And it's just like, it's amazing. We have politicized. Well, we didn't politicize. Like one segment of people in this country have politicized, like not wearing a mask. Like, and it's becoming like policy. It's becoming official policy to like ban people from wearing a mask because that infringes on your freedoms. So people like don't like understand. There's a couple of like analogies I think we should make with this. Like you have the right, like, yeah, you have the freedom technically to produce as much pollution as you want. But like we're all breathing that same air, and your freedom, like your pollution is infringing upon the rights of everyone else through like your pursuit of it's right there.
Like your pollution stops at my lungs, right? That kind of idea. Like it's the analogy
like
that
people
Rick always
smoking,
uses,
people smoking inside restaurants. Like you thought you should have the right to smoke, but no, like your smoke is, adversely affecting everyone else. And it's
Rick Smith always used to use this analogy, right? It's like your freedom to swing your fist around stops at the tip of my nose, right? It's the same principle.
Yeah, and it's just like like we're seeing what happens with like libertarian ideology throughout this whole entire fucking thing. People are getting rich off the pandemic. I mean, it's just it is unbelievable with like just everything else that has happened, and it's all. But also like someone made a really good point about this. I guess we're just going right into politics. Fuck it.
I mean, seriously. I mean, like literally,
like these states that are reopening down south don't have any fucking income taxes.
Yeah, I know.
And so if you don't have income tax, what do you need to generate revenue? Sales tax. And guess what happens when the whole entire state's closed down? You're not generating the sales tax to keep the state going.
Exactly.
Like, and this is exactly like this is like shitty Republican economics from like the fiscally conservative group of people, like not having the right government in place, and then a once in 100-year pandemic comes around and just exposes like how fucked up your economy is.
Yep.
Like, and your ideology too, your free market ideology.
Yep. No, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's it's just crazy, Sean. It's just crazy. I mean, it's I mean like Brian Kemp with the mask mandate, like making it illegal for like mayors to like. That's what I mean. Well, did you see? Okay, so you've got Mayor Bottoms is her name, right? It's like she's the mayor of Atlanta,
who tested positive.
Who tested positive now, right? And now Atlanta has been trying to kind of like get things under control, right? So let's be clear about that. And so she like puts in an ordinance requiring face masks. Right. And after Brian Kemp says, like, no, you can't do that because she's trying to use her authority or usurp mine, and mine should lead. Mine should be more important.
I don't want no black woman telling me
exactly
people what to do.
Right. Exactly.
Like, that's exactly where this is going.
That's all it is. Right. It's like, Stacey Abrams didn't kick me out. I fixed the vote for that. And there's no way some uppity black woman from Atlanta is going to come down here and tell me, Brian Kemp, what to do. And so he's going to sue. He's suing her to try to protect people from dying. I mean, this is just, I mean, that was like, not only that, I mean, because you saw what's going on in Florida, right? I mean, you saw what's happening in Florida. You saw like in Texas, like they're, again, calling in the refrigerated trucks. I mean, where have we seen this story before? I mean, morgue capacity has been exceeded in multiple cities, right? And in Texas, right? Some of the stories in Texas has just been like heartbreaking because there's all these smaller cities, right? I mean, Texas is a big state. So when you're talking about a smaller city in like, in Texas, you're not talking about like
hundreds of miles away from like,
yeah, you're talking, no, seriously, you're not talking about like, like Kutztown sized city. You're talking about a decent sized city, like something like Syracuse, like,
Harrisburg.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking like, 100,000, 200,000 people, right? And it just those smaller cities that are kind of like in the kind of like way off in the kind of West Texas and things like this, do not have the resources or the capacity I was listening to this one story about, these patients that are been flown by helicopter for over an hour to get to a hospital because they ran out of beds. And and this is, I'm glad, I can't remember who I was listening to this week that brought this up, but I think it might even have been Chris Hayes, or maybe it was Sam Cedar. I'm not sure, but basically said, look, like it or not, it's like, well, not like it or not, but the fact of the matter is that the crisis doesn't seem as acute to a lot of people in the country that's happening right now, in part because those folks do not live in major media outlets, right? And they don't, like New York City. When New York City got hit, every major news organization was right there. So every night these things were on the evening news. Every night that this stuff had pictures and things, and that kind of drove coverage. And when New York started to settle down, right, the rest of the country started to feel like, oh, things.
And we were talking about this for when this happened, the curve was going down nationally because of the numbers New York State was disproportionately impacting on the curve, while the actual curve, when you excluded those numbers, was rising. Right. And it was rising steadily for weeks, on end. And now, it's just fucking ridiculous. I don't know where to go. Even locally around here, people just don't give a fuck about this. It's just I've only been to a bar twice since they've opened up, and that was sitting outside waiting for food.
Yeah, I saw your picture.
Yeah, but
Midtown.
but I was sitting 5 or 6 feet away from people, away from the table. Fuck you, I'm just waiting for wings. I'm getting out of here. But it is going through Snapchat and Instagram and seeing the videos people are posting. I don't know if you use Snapchat at all. I
no.
barely. I'm elder millennial, so I don't know how to use it that well. But just going, there's a heat map on there, right, with the app, and you could just see where people are posting the most stories at.
Yep. And
downtown Harrisburg was a big fucking red bullseye.
Yep.
Of just people posting videos of them inside Aruga's, Level 2, Knock, all these other clubs or dive bars, and dancing no masks, 100, 200 people inside these places with no fucking masks, and none of the business owners are doing anything about this. We're asking the bar scene to self-regulate, we're it's capitalism. We're just asking and it's just 4th of July weekend, all the people were out on their pontoon boats on the Susquehanna River, and they were tied up, and I got pictures of some of the people these pontoon boats. You can count the heads on there. There was 12 or 15 people with their on a single pontoon sitting next to each other with their children running around.
Okay. Sorry if anybody's listening on the stream right now. There was a little disruption, and I'm not sure what happened right there. So hopefully we're back up at this point. The number of people that they know of, right, or that I see on social media that are either right now, have just gotten back from, are planning to go next week to South Carolina and North Carolina on vacation in the beaches. It's astounding to me. And the thing
cognitive dissonance.
In full disclosure here, we went to the shore for a week, right? And we had this place that we rent. It's kind of out of the way from things. It had been empty for weeks ahead of time, and we basically brought everything there. And we, if you go back and forth, our kids were just really wanted to go someplace and we'll go to the shore. We had planned to going down, and so, okay, look, we'll do it. If it looks weird, we're just going to pull it. We're going to come back. And they knew that ahead of time. And there weren't a lot of people there, for the first part of the week. And we just stayed away from, we didn't go during the beach during the day, right? We went in the evening, right? And the beach was pretty much cleared out. We had masks, right? We went out once to a farm stand and everybody had masks on. That was it. Right. So, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to do holier than thou stuff here, because I understand that need to go someplace. And if everybody were going to those places, right, I don't hold out I know that it's possible to go to even some of those places, right, and be safe. But then when I see their pictures, like you're saying, to accompany that, I'm like, no, they're not. It's not like they're like isolating in some place that's kind of near the shore. It's away from. No, they're at parties. They're with hundreds of thousands of people. There was this one post I saw from somebody. Well, even from Ocean City, for example, in Jersey, where they're on the boardwalk. And I'm like, oh, my God, I can't even imagine going to a boardwalk.
My parents went down to Wildwood this last weekend. And they're just like, it wasn't as crowded as usual, but she was on the boardwalk and she's like texting me like, no one's wearing a fucking mask. I'm like, well, get away.
Right.
Like, stay clear of that. Like, she was getting angry at me for like, chastising her. But it's like, you were telling me last week you're taking this seriously because of our aunt getting sick.
Yeah.
But here you are down Wildwood. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stay the fuck away from these places.
Well, that's,
like,
I mean, we're like Wildwood Crest, right? So like have kind of there, but our first day down there, New Jersey governor basically issued a mandatory mask wearing, like for outdoors, especially if you cannot social distance by more than 6 feet, and cited the boardwalks as one of the examples because people were not, or I'm sorry, the Wildwood mayor, I guess to say, because people had not been, they did the honor system, like everybody take personal responsibility, right? Which the
Republican,
and nope, they didn't. So they said, okay, well, what choice do we have then? And still, people were not doing it. I mean, it's like, I don't know what you do. What do you do with a scenario? And this is why I play that thing from Benjamin Dixon's show. I mean, like, I swear, Benjamin Dixon is just, his show is like therapy for me right now. I'm telling you. So you really should check out his show. It's a Benjamin Dixon show. The free show is about a half an hour. I'm a patron of his show, so I listen to the whole thing. But and I never, just so you know, any clip you'll hear from on this show, if I ever play something from Benjamin Dixon, is not from the patron show. It's always from the free show because if you want to hear the patron show, definitely subscribe. I'll push him. He's been doing great stuff. Anyways, it's like, now I lost my train of thought because I went off on that freaking thing. I was like,
about the masks and the honor system.
Oh no, yeah, that's why I played that set. What do you do in a situation when you've got everyone saying that we don't want the government, we don't want no nanny state, we don't want blah 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 blah, and they said everyone should have personal responsibility, right? And then those people who say that they don't want the government, they don't want these ordinances, they want their freedom, and they think everyone should be responsible for themselves, they act in ways that are completely irresponsible. So you cannot depend on the people who are saying be personally responsible to do the thing that is personally responsible. I mean, it's freaking crazy. And Benjamin Dixon just basically like, hey, look, this is just plain out ignorance. He's like, we spend all this time with the boogeyman about China, about Russia is going to destroy America. Like, no, American ignorance is what is going to destroy this country. That is what is going on. And it is on full display right now. And I mean, I don't know what else to do with that. I mean, if you can't get it through people's heads, right? That they're protecting. It's not just you, right? That there's other people in the world. And if you don't give a shit about other people in the world, then I'm done with you. I mean, you're an ignorant piece of shit. I don't know what else to tell me. I mean, what else do you do?
Yeah,
seriously.
I have no respect for any of the people who choose not to wear a mask. Like, it's especially for, I mean, the people like in the state legislature and stuff like that. You have people walking around the Capitol without wearing masks still. It's just getting so friggin' it's ridiculous how out of hand it's getting. It's also fun like watching people who can't wear their mask properly. Like, they can't cover their nose.
Oh my God. Have you seen that graphic?
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
yes. Yes, I have.
It's like, wearing your mask like this with it below your nose, right, is like wearing your underwear like this with like your wanker hanging out. It's like, basically, I mean, I don't know what else. I want a bumper sticker like that because it's like.
And also, like, it shows like the white male fragility, like when they have to wear a mask. Like, it is
bizarre though, because like, have you seen?
Like the people like the my body my choice people, like are like the like. Yeah, it's
you
just,
think about
like,
that. You think about that. This, again, this is what
or that guy who flipped the fuck out, like people in the Costco's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, no, sorry, you should be shamed. You're
Yes.
in the middle of a fucking pandemic and you're not participating in society.
You should
Like,
be shamed, and you should be driven out into the desert to wander for the rest. Seriously, I mean, I don't know what the hell else to say.
Like it's time we start ostracizing these people and just like fucking drive and shun them. Like they have to be shunned. Like it's just
and let's be clear who we're talking about here, right? Because this is what the other thing that's been driving me insane, right? And I was talking to one of my neighbors about this. Is like when everything becomes everything is an either or, right? This is why I say when I'm teaching, especially my composition students in my first year, right? One of the things I'm always the number one goal of that class for me, right, as a teacher, is to get people out of this either or, on off, pro con thinking, right? So when I ask them to kind of like write and do research and things like this, I'm not asking them to make an argument against the other, because we know, and I run through the formula, right? Because we know how it's set up, right? Here's this position that you believe in. Here's somebody else who's like, here's somebody else who disagrees with what I hear. Here's why that person is full of shit, and this is why I'm right. Right? There's option number one, or option number two is like, oh yeah, well, they've got some good points and I've got some good points. So truth must be somewhere in between. No, sometimes people are wrong, right? But the point is, like, you got to think about the whole thing, right? And what you got to think about all the different kind of perspectives and ideas that are going on out there for that class. What we're seeing is the pro-con culture has just gone off like the wall. So we're playing essentially team sports right now. And my wife and I were talking about this last night, and it was like, trying to convince somebody of like, things like, I don't know, COVID's real, right? When they think that COVID is a conspiracy by the Democratic Party, right? Which is just like, what the Democratic Party can't like coordinate like what to wear on a particular day. I mean, seriously, I mean, you think what but that's what they think, right? So it's like basically going to an Eagles fan, right? And saying like, okay, I know you've been an Eagles fan your whole life, right? But I want you to be a Cowboys fan now, right? Or I want you to love the Giants or become a Steelers fan, right? And they're like, and you give them several different points about why that's a good idea. And then he just sit there and they go like, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about it like that. Yes, I'll become a Dallas Cowboys fan. No, that's not going to happen. They're going to hit you, right? That's what's going to happen. And that's the mentality that we're in right now. If it's not for their team, it must be the other team trying to come at them, right? It's
amazing how this got politicized. Like,
that's what I mean.
And then you have groups like the Commonwealth Foundation and then other like right-wing think tanks fucking pushing these conspiracy theories out there or filing lawsuits against these townships and shit like that. It's just like, yeah. I guess like one thing I want to talk about, touch upon, because I think it's like a good topic. Governor Wolf had a really long press conference the other day, and it was actually pretty serious. Like literally, he started the press conference by saying this coronavirus is getting out of control because no one is acting federally. Basically, just said "fuck you" to Trump, and then said like the governors down south aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing to aren't living up to their promises and keeping this shit under control. And now because of that, the coronavirus is making its way up the 95 corridor. It's making its way up the like I-81 corridor. It's starting to it's not staying within the geographic boundaries of the South because these fucking people didn't get their virus under control. And no, it's not stabilizing, okay? If you think your virus is stabilizing at 15,000 cases a day, that's not stabilizing. But like, and then how like, so like, yeah, but with this press conference, there was that. And like, I mean, this is probably like the angriest I've seen Wolf in years. Like he was very stern. And pretty much like what he did was he put a restriction on all the bars and shut down dive bars and nightclubs. And then like, if you're drinking at a restaurant, 25% capacity, and you can only drink with your meal. You can't sit there and drink and get shit-faced. So like that is pretty much done. And like, yeah, I mean, like he saw the videos and like the reports of people just going wild. Harrisburg had like 70 checks last week by the state police. And like, or 25 or 50, there's like 55 checks.
Yeah.
There were 24 violations or warnings issued. Well, that was like the highest out of like anywhere else in the state, like in this region, with the PSP doing their checks. And it's like, yeah, this stuff's getting back to the governor. And he like said, like, someone said, are you worried about this being a catastrophe? And like Rachel Levine starts talking and he just cuts her off. And he's like, yeah, I'm worried. I'm scared this is going to be a catastrophe. This is why we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I really, here's the thing. I don't know where these people are, right? Because I understand. I understand the impact on the small businesses, right? I mean, I totally get that. If your livelihood is based upon, you run in this bar, you run in this restaurant, you run in this kind of stuff, I understand the absolute, like, the frustration and the concern and really, the absolute fear that some of these folks have got to be under, that, they're going to lose their livelihood. I get that. But then what I don't get, right, is that how that gets marshaled, right, into saying, like, okay, so then we're going to be angry at the government. We're going to be angry at Wolf, right, for doing this stuff, right? Angry at him for changing course, right? I've been seeing lots of posts on social media about this. For me, I would be livid. I would be so freaking pissed at those people that refuse to wear face masks. They are the ones who
so did you see
causing you to shut your business down.
Did you see the meme that was going around last week? The guy with the gun, right? I think it was a Chappelle skit or something like that. And like you have something,
the deer hunting one.
No.
Okay.
It's about like three men in a suit. Someone gets shot, and like it's like Pennsylvania businesses, people not wearing masks. Boom, it shoots them, and then like it has like the person turn out like with like stunned face. Is like, why did Governor Wolf do this?
There you go. Right.
It perfectly explains it. It's
exactly.
Like people not wearing masks kill Pennsylvania businesses, and then he turned around and was like, it's Governor Wolf's fault.
Yep.
No,
I would be like, even like if I was a reasonable Republican, for example, or someone, let's put it, someone who's, let's take it out of like party politics. If I was a reasonable like person who didn't pay a whole lot of attention to all this kind of stuff, and even if I leaned conservatively or something like this, and I believed in the whole personal responsibility stuff, right? I should be out there, like you should have like the grannies out there with their rulers smacking people on the wrist, right? For kind of like, I can't believe you didn't wear your mask, boom, right? I mean, that should be the mentality, right? It's like, we did. I mean, I remember. I
think you're asking low wage workers to tell people to wear masks.
Well, that's
like at these stores.
I was really pissed off at the and they had this woman. I don't know if I think she's a representative or something like that from Missouri, was on last night on Chris Hayes, and I was listening to the podcast this morning as I was walking my dog. And one of the things that really frustrates me right now, right, as you think about how this plays out long term, right? So one of the things that frustrates me right now is that, because we see Walmart, right, and all these major kind of retailers now requiring that everyone in their store, if you want to come into the store and shop here, you have to wear a mask, right? Regardless of what your state's laws are, if you want to come into this private property, Walmart, you have to wear a mask, right? Now, of course, the point to what you're pointing to, now it's up to some minimum wage. Very often the greeters are like grandmas and grandpas. Right?
Or like worker of color.
Or worker of color who are going to be sitting there and are being asked to police that, right? So problem number one. But then what this Missouri congresswoman, I think she was a congresswoman, said that really disturbed me is she said, like, yeah, it's disturbing that we're seeing the leadership now not come from the federal government, but coming from corporate America, and Walmart stepping up to help stop the virus. I'm like, no. It's the same thing. It's kind of like the Lincoln Project. Walmart does not suddenly now become the good guy in this narrative. Walmart doesn't pay their freaking workers enough, right, in order to have a sustainable living. And they have shitty health care. And they're being forced to come to work, otherwise they're going to be fired. And they're being asked to police it on their own, right? So don't tell me Walmart is somehow the good guy so that we're going to recraft this narrative is that, oh, yeah, corporations are good. No.
Yeah, and then unemployment's running out next week or in 10 days.
We'll see. Do you think they're gonna renew that?
I mean, I think the Democrats have the power. The power's in their hand to do something. Like they could just tell Mitch McConnell, like, this is on you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even though they don't have like the majority, they can still force that through, I think. But just
I think it's going to be very, very hard for them not to extend unemployment benefits. But you know what? I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, at this point, I mean, it could be like, hey, 3 sheets to the wind, man. We're already down this road. Let's keep going. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, like, I personally like hope there's another stimulus check, but it's just me. You know, put that towards camera gear.
You're like, yeah, well, I'm another stimulus check because I want my camera.
Hey, I'll put that money back into the economy real quickly. It's what you're supposed to do with this money. Like, put it back into the fucking economy. But.
Well, I look at it like this, right?
So but it's also like.
There's an issue out there, right? There's an issue out there because that, you know, that
like, okay, so my mom, right?
Yeah.
She works at LaSalle University.
Yep.
She does wait staff there, and they're being called back to work, and she doesn't want to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, I have to go back to work because if I don't, I won't get unemployment, and then I lose my health benefits.
Right.
And she's still protected by union, and it's like, this is who we're going to put, like, putting my mom's life in jeopardy because, like, she knows, like, college students aren't going to be wearing the fucking masks and stuff like that. Like,
anybody who's not an idiot, anybody who's like, you are an idiot,
like,
knows that.
Like, she knows that, and she even says, she's like, I would rather than just be on unemployment for the rest of the year until this thing is over. And there's a lot of people who are going to be like that, and it's just like, it's like, I mean, but this could have been over by now if people would have worn a mask and we had a fucking federal response.
Right. If we lived in a country that had a culture of personal responsibility, like it claims to be, this would be over too as well. Right. In this ideological vision of the right, where everyone individual takes personal responsibility, right, and then that was what will guide us to kind of like to progress. If that was a true narrative, then we'd be out of this, right? Because people would do the upstanding thing, they do the right thing, and they move forward. But that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the very people that are propagating that myth, right, that are the ones that are in violation. That's what's just insane to me. But we are, you know, this is kind of where we're at, and we're kind of playing this out. And you know, the fact is that this has been a long time coming. Right.
This is like 40 years of Republican ideology.
This is
the Lincoln Project.
This is a long time coming. And I look, I mean, we're going to get out of this in one way or another, right? The way I'd prefer, right, was not more of tens of thousands of people dead.
Yeah.
Right. Not in a situation in which we're.
I mean, at what point do people just start rioting over their governor's responses? Like,
if they don't look, you already.
I mean, you think about it, like you think about it, like you have Brian Kemp go out in public, or you know, you're asking for trouble, like you're asking for like. At what point do people like just start fucking destroying things? Like I put this on Twitter, and this is why I fear where we're going. Like. Yeah. You know, like 1920s, like we, as Rick always said, destroyed this country brick by brick.
Yep.
Like working people fucking tore this country apart until the New Deal. And Biden, it appears that Biden is getting that there has to be a New Deal package coming out. And it seems like that's what his campaign signaling.
That's what the campaign is. We'll see what actually happens if he gets elected.
Yeah. Like, but like it's like, I mean, it's like Herbert Hoover type responses from like, that's the fucking calamity of this that we're in right now, like from Trump. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know what people do. Like, if you take that stimulus check away, you take away this unemployment, you force people back to work,
and you kick them out of their houses.
Yeah, like listen, like this PPP money, this bailout that happened was the largest transfer of wealth, upward transfer of wealth, probably in human history. Yeah. Like, like the banks are seeing record profits. You know, like they're making money off of this. I don't know, like what happens after this. Like, I mean, you're going to see like another Occupy style. It's only a matter of time with, like, I'm telling you, I've been saying this for a couple months now. It's only a matter of time before.
Mark this, because this is important.
It's only a matter of time between Black Lives Matter movement and this bailout and this populism coalesce and form into something else. Like, yep. I think, like, you know, you start kicking teachers and all back to work. You're going to start mobilizing unions. like you're going to be mobilizing sectors of the economy or sectors of like the left. Like once you get union, like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know how if you're a union, you go back to work with this. I mean, if I was a union, I would be calling for a strike right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this right now, I think this may actually be one of the only times in our lifetime where we can pull off a general strike and shut things down.
I agree.
Like we don't have the organizing infrastructure in place to do that. It takes years of organizing for that. But like, I feel like there is such a climate for that it could actually be pulled off.
Yep, I agree.
And I mean, because it's getting to that point where people are realizing what's going on.
I just think that's what's going to happen. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say what's going to happen. I mean, it seems to me what's going to happen is that, or what needs to happen is that somebody needs to take the first step. I mean, I'll tell you right now, my union, they're terrified of like worker power, right? Because the thing is, if they weren't terrified of worker power, then we would have taken our the power that we earned during our strike, and we would have put it into organizing on the ground at every single campus in here right now, and we would be able to kind of push back in ways that we had never seen before. And we would have been mobilizing right now already to say we refuse to go back to work. What are you going to do? You're going to fire us all? Go for it. Go for it. Right? You're already promising that you're going to kind of erode the standard of living of kind of most of faculty members, and you've already cut by 30% the custodial staff, which I'm going to have more to talk about in today's second segment. But it's like, go for it. Right.
And it's also, I mean, yeah, I think we should probably end it in a couple of minutes. But I mean, this is probably the only time in my lifetime, like recent history. I mean, like besides like, you know, slavery and stuff like that. But like, I don't think there's ever been a point where like labor has been this dispensable, and labor as in like your life. Like fuck you, you know, you want money, go back to work, risk dying. Like this is Lochner era style, like contract for work, like right. This, and it's just like we have like labor is just so disposable right now.
Right. And here's a perfect for all my higher ed and, for example, K through 12 folks, but particularly in higher ed, right? You want to talk about disposable labor? We're in it right now. And matter of fact, without having organized worker power, organized power by faculty members, by teachers, right? Organized to resist and kind of produce a counter narrative to this. Here's what's going to happen. This is what I see happening. Because of COVID-19, we've been forced, right, in like unprecedented fashion to get up and running an online schooling, right? We've been forced to do that. And there were those of us who have never, ever liked distance ed. I'm one of them, right? I was getting training in it anyways for whatever, because one of the majors that I work with. But there were people that said, no. And then look, because we care about freaking education, because we care about our students, because we care about we got on board and we found ways to get through it. Some people did better than others, right? But there's training sessions all summer long, and faculty members and teachers are in workshops preparing for how you do distance ed, right? Let me just little throw this in here and then we'll go for a break. Because then what happens is that once you do that, and now you've prepared to go all online, right? These systems are set up so that property, right, can be taken by the company that owns it, or the university who is subcontracted with that company to put those things online. So your course materials could be standardized and put up online so that anybody could survey them or coach the class, right? Now, we have some protections of that with an APSCUF. So we have some particular things in our contract to protect our intellectual property when it comes to distance ed, right? That is not the case at the vast majority of universities across this country. So what happens is that I find out is that, hey, you know what? We don't really need that office space anymore to house that faculty members, right? We can sell off these other buildings. We can sell off this property to fill in our budget gaps, right? Because they just need to be sitting at home. As a matter of fact, like since they're sitting at home, they're just individual contractors now. That's where we're going. And because like we're so focused on trying to make the system work, we are inadvertently contributing to our own demise. The only thing that we can do to stop that is to organize and build power. That's it. That's all I got to say for the break. Anything else before we run it, Sean?
That's it.
All right, here we go. All right, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We will be back right after this with segment number 2.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1934. The Teamster members of Local 574 in Minneapolis were back out on strike. Their strike had begun 2 months prior on May 16th. The striking Teamsters had effectively shut down much of the commercial transportation in the city. One exception was made for some farmers, who were allowed to bring their produce to market. The powerful Citizens Alliance, created to oppose and destroy unions, tried to defeat the strike. The police clashed violently with the strikers, who tried to keep scab drivers from breaking through their picket lines. As the strike entered its second week, other unions began to strike in support of the Teamsters. Clashes between the police and workers intensified. Minneapolis labor leaders sat down with the police and proposed a truce. The governor of Minnesota, Floyd Olson, helped to arbitrate an agreement. The Teamsters won union recognition and the right for all strikers to return to work, as well as a system of recognizing seniority. On May 25th, they called off the strike and went back to work. But soon the employers began to backpedal on the agreement. They claimed that the negotiations did not include the workers inside warehouses and only covered those who drove and unloaded vehicles. Angered, the Teamsters went back out on strike. Soon, violent clashes between the picketers and police broke out again. 2 workers were shot in the back and killed. The governor declared martial law and sent in the National Guard to restore order. A federal mediator brokered another settlement meeting the major demands of the union. It was a major victory for the Teamsters and a major victory for the workers of Minneapolis and beyond. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Welcome back to Raging Chickens Out the Coop podcast. It's our second segment today. And for those of you who have kind of dropped in and kind of check out the live stream, I'm sorry. And for you listening to the podcast too as well, sorry for some little kind of glitches here and there. I'm kind of reminding myself there's some little things on our feed that I'm trying to remind myself about how to do effectively. So you might have caught me saying, okay, you ready to go? And Sean said, or you wouldn't have heard Sean, you would have heard me say, okay, you ready to go? Yep, okay. You might have heard that. Sorry about that. We'll get there.
So I'm actually like pretty self-conscious about this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It is what it is, man. We're in the world as it is, not in some Instagram world. So
hey, it's
it's
been I actually shave every Friday for the podcast and for our phone calls. It's been I'll tell you one thing. It's been interesting, like shaving for the first time consistently in a few years. That's for sure because of the pandemic. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, okay. So listen. Before we get into the stuff, I want you to talk a little about the stuff about the lawsuits that are going on. But I did not mention this up top, and I should have mentioned this up top. I had it in some of my other notes. Lehigh Valley Stands Up. I want to give all props to Lehigh Valley Stands Up right now. They were freaking tearing it up right now around a kind of another instance of police brutality that has taken place in Allentown, where you had an officer which was actually holding someone down with the same like knee to the neck motion that we saw that killed George Floyd, right? And people now have organized and rally against this. There was a rally like an hour after the video went viral within the community. Yep, exactly. There was an hour that when they organized it almost like immediately. There was a city council meeting, and I believe the ordinance passed that is going to. I should check on that. Should come back to it, I guess. But they had that to defund parts of the Allentown police department. And there was some growing support behind that. And again, go back and listen to our previous podcast if you want to know what defund the police is. Don't think it means like, hey, we all go wild, quit your day job. Sean's got the there you go. I love this shirt. I had to wear it for today. It popped up on my timeline like
one of those, like, it was a total impulse purchase from the Facebook. The Facebook ads got to me.
Yeah, there you go. That's where I saw it. I saw that when you had it on top. I'm like, hey, I saw it.
Yeah, But yeah.
So really, if you're not following Lehigh Valley Stands Up and you're in the Lehigh Valley area, you need to check them out on Instagram, check them out on Facebook, and get hooked up with those folks. I'm going to do my best to have some folks for Lehigh Valley Stands Up on the podcast in the coming weeks, because I think that there are some incredible opportunities right now in the Lehigh Valley, and finally you've got an organizing body. And Sean, you've heard Sean talk about PA Stands Up and what they've been doing across the state, and what they're doing in Lehigh Valley with Lehigh Valley Stands Up has just been impressive. So you talk about coalitions, you got people from Make the Road that are kind of part of this, and it's just phenomenal. So check out what they've been doing. All props to them. Keep up the pressure, and we'll be looking to having you guys on sometime soon. So yeah, Sean, so I mean, walk us through a little bit what's going on here with these lawsuits. I mean, because this seems like pretty problematic.
Yeah, so 3 lawsuits were filed. It actually gets a lot more problematic because I didn't include this in the description. But 3 lawsuits were filed by the Trump campaign and the RNC. In Pennsylvania, it was actually filed in federal court in the Western District of Pennsylvania. And this, to make things worse, I believe these lawsuits will be going in front of a Trump-appointed judge, which is always nice. So there are 3 things that the Republicans and Trump is going after. Technicalities with mail-in ballots. So the thing that they're going out, the real technicality they're going after is the privacy envelope. For those who voted by mail, you get a white envelope, stick your ballot in, and then you stick your ballot into the actual envelope. So that privacy envelope was the first one. And about 10% of all votes casted, mail-in, it's just how it is. About 10% of all ballots don't get counted or don't have those privacy envelopes, and they usually get counted. The Trump campaign is trying to just knock those ballots off, saying that they're not that they're not valid, and that could be as much as like 200,000 voters. The second issue is the drop boxes. So that is up to the discretion of the county. What they're trying to do, since it's not stated in law, they're only trying to say you're only allowed 1 drop box per county, not multiple drop boxes across the county. So Philadelphia, Montgomery, Bucks, like people in the Southeast, instead of mailing their ballot, they would have to go to, or they have the option to go to these drop boxes. So like they only want to have 1 drop box per county.
Per county, right?
Per county, yes. So imagine hundreds of thousands of voters trying to use a drop box in Philadelphia. It's just so they're doing things to really suppress the votes in cities and more populated counties. And the last thing is that something the Republicans have been trying to get for years, and that's to allow out-of-county poll watchers to go into your other counties and watch over the polls. Basically, i.e., allowing someone from Perry County to come into Harrisburg and make sure, those black and brown people are actually voting the way they should be. Or just not voting at all because you have a group of, like this is the stuff this is specifically to intimidate black and brown voters. And this is what they're trying to do here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. No. I mean, this is, we're going to see this, all over the country right now. I mean, this is going to be the kind of thing that is going to be,
yes. And this is something that's not used to Pennsylvania. Something that Pennsylvania does not have a history of suppressing the vote. Like this is them trying to suppress the vote
from a federal level.
From a federal level, yes. This is them trying to steal the election. And as we saw last time, Pennsylvania was decided by like 40,000 votes.
Yep. And that is only it's going to get pressurized. So now, so with these lawsuits, I mean, do you have any sense of how they're going to go and how they're going to be heard?
I do not know. I know like a bunch of Democrats from the Black Legislative Caucuses, I think, have filed suits in Commonwealth Court. I don't know how this is, but I believe that these suits are in a federal court. So I don't know what's happening, but these are the 3 suits that we should be aware of.
Right, and one of the things that we should be concerned about, because this should be, since the federal government is involved in this goes right to federal courts, right? So this will not go through like the PA Commonwealth Court or the PA Supreme Court, right? But it will go through federal courts, right? Is that your understanding of it? And that's important, because if you remember, one of the things that we've been talking about in the the folder of elections have consequences is that the Trump administration has appointed a record number,
like 300 judges,
right, of federal judges, right? So the federal courts, and this is going to be something that's going to be with us now for probably the rest of my life, the consequences of these appointments. That since it goes up through the federal court system, this is why you see these kind of lawsuits getting filed, is that's where they feel they've got a shot, right? Remember, they've got their people on the Supreme Court. They've got their people. I'm not so sure about this district court, right? The federal district court. I'm not sure how many appointments have come from the Trump thing. I still think it's a lot of holdovers from the Bush administration, actually. But we shall see. We shall see where this goes.
And it's also like, this is a strategy being used by right-wing groups to go after unions. A lot of these lawsuits going after unions go into the federal courts, middle district, especially here in Pennsylvania. Thankfully, the judges have pretty much knocked out a lot of those cases. But yeah, they're using the federal court system to go after the vote in Pennsylvania.
Well, we'll keep an eye on this, because this is look, Pennsylvania, it's not surprising that Pennsylvania is targeted. Pennsylvania was one of the states that Trump needed, right, and will need going forward. Look, again, as the Trump administration gets more desperate, with after the polls have come out showing that Trump is kind of behind Joe Biden by double digits at this point. There was that huge shakeup in their, not huge, I shouldn't say huge shakeup. There was a shakeup in their campaign where he did a flip flop as the kind of number one, number two, kind of ahead of his campaign after the poll results come out showing that Trump is not doing well. You back the the rabid wolf into the corner, and this is they're going to strike. And that's what I expect is going to happen, is we're going to see more of these attempts to just kind of double down on what they're doing and to use every mechanism at their disposal in order to steal the election. So where it goes on. I don't know, man. Crazy. Well, anything else going on in Pennsylvania that you want to throw in? I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Pashy, but I'll give you the floor first so that you can tune out for a while after that.
Yeah, let's not take this too long.
Yeah. No, nothing else for PA?
Not particularly too much. No, nothing really. The Republicans are going after Governor Wolf's ability to declare emergency shutdowns. They vote on a bunch of amendments to speak to the Constitution that they want to vote on again next year, limiting governors' emergency declarations because they feel like, the Wolf is a dictator, even though he has a 70% approval rating with the way he's handling the pandemic. So that happened this week as well. So, standard Republican bullshit. Instead of, helping people out, they've just been obstructing this whole entire time.
There you go, man. There you go. Well, let me talk a little bit, just a couple of things. I'm not, I already talked about the survey that came out. It's a faculty survey that our union did, showing about 70% of faculty are seriously concerned about returning to face-to-face instruction in the fall. One thing I should be, just so we get this narrative correct, right? To be sure, this does not mean that 70% of faculty like online and want to be remote. Look at the news and they listen to facts and science and things like this, and they know full well that we're in a situation where this could be disastrous, right? That there are very few avenues where to keep things safe by going back to all in-person instruction. And I want to give a shout out to the folks at our Radio Times. They did a great segment yesterday on higher education, the COVID and the COVID pandemic, and the return to campus. And there's a woman on, I believe she was in labor studies, surprise, surprise, from Rutgers. And there were some other guests there too as well. And there's a woman who did some great reporting on this too as well. I'm sorry I don't have the stuff up, so I can't tell you their names right at this point. I caught it in the middle of the program, but I did send it out to Facebook, and I'll try to remember to put a link here. But Rutgers University, for example, in New Jersey, they decide we're going all remote except in very specific instances. Like, so for example, if you're getting a nursing degree, right? And you have to have certain kinds of things that are hands-on experience in order to pass, in order to qualify, right? So there's ways that if you don't have anybody else on campus, right, you could actually bring people on individually or in kind of small teams that are socially distanced in order to accomplish those particular components. Or if you need to actually have hands-on lab testing where you're kind of doing experiments in a lab, you have all things kind of spread out. That's, you know, that's what they're going with. And Marty Moscowane, who runs Radio Times, basically asked us, well, what did it seem like between, you know, faculty and staff, and how did they feel about this? You know, what was it? Was a lot of tension and this one was like, actually, not so much. I mean, we had a lot of discussions about it, but eventually you see the numbers, and it said already New Jersey has been kind of significantly impacted already, hard hit by the coronavirus kind of early on. And so you're just kind of faced with that reality. So it was more of trying to figure out kind of what we all do and making sure everybody's on board with it. But basically it's been more of a collaborative decision between administration, of faculty, and staff that we need to be all on remote, right? That was such a sane articulation of that process, right? And I'm like, I literally was driving in my car and just happened to flip it on. I'm like, oh my God, that's what we should. That is not what is happening here in Pennsylvania, of course, right? What's happening here in Pennsylvania is like, you know, we have these guidelines that are put out with lots of smiley faces and lots of PR talk, but ultimately what those guidelines say is like, hey, whatever the CDC says is what we're going to try to do. Right? There's no enforcement mechanisms. There's no specifics. There's no kind of like detailed plans. And we're going to leave it up to individual universities to make their decision. Right? So it's basically, it's doubling your distance from liability. That's what this all says to me. And ultimately, the impact is going to be felt on faculty and staff. More so staff even than faculty. What's that?
It's local control. It's what Ayn Rand and the libertarians wanted forever.
Exactly.
And Greenstein is just washing his hands of any responsibility.
Exactly. And it's like, and if you actually, I can't go down this road. About the Greenstein talk, right? His blog posting and things like that. I cannot go down that road right now. Otherwise I will get lost. Because it's infuriating. If you ever read Anand Girananadas, I always get his last name wrong. His book, this is what it's about. This is the Silicon Valley speak. This is the kind of like, all
play bombs, no like substance.
I mean, it's just like you watch this flashy smile and you know this, and I'm like, this is what anyways, I gotta stop. All right. But here's I want to get just a couple specific things that are happening. One, as you recall, on the podcast several weeks ago, we talked about this new legislation that was passed that would give the Chancellor's Office and the Board of Governors new powers, right? Our union, our faculty union, basically they had an influence on that legislation. So now that there's actually a process where there's some kind of like hearings that are involved, that other people have to be informed about it. In my view, there's not a whole lot of teeth to that. Right. It's more of a consulting, right? So your customer survey, we'd like to know what you think. Thank you for your input. See you later. Right. I'm overstating the case, right? Because I'm a little frustrated about it. But so there was some influence. There was some pushback by faculty members and for our faculty union in order to kind of change that legislation, at least putting some oversight into it. However, ultimately, those powers were granted. And as soon as that law passed, and it's kind of like now it's like, a couple of weeks old or a week old, week and a half old, that it's gone through, here you go. Greenstein laying out what they're going to do. And, they say it's going to be a year process or a 2-year process or whatever like this. But really what it is that they're trying to consolidate universities. Right. And I say, given the proximity of kind of like Slippery Rock and Edinburgh, right, we figure it's easy for people. If you look at a map, right, you talk about the proximity of those two. It's not like they're down the street from each other, right? So whatever. Exercising those powers as soon as they've been given. And what's brilliant about the way he's framed it is by saying, the Board of Governors instructed us to do this, right? So now, he's building his little team, his little power center to kind of really fundamentally uptake this. And the one thing I will say about one of his blog posts is what he said. He said, the eyes of the United States are on us. What I've always claimed from the beginning, the reason why he came to Pennsylvania to give himself a name. Right, on the national stage so that he can influence policy. This is
so you'd be like Frank Brogan and become Secretary of Education or something like that.
Yep. This is he is the more suave Democratic version of that.
So Frank Brogan's actually speaking at the Crazy Conference in September.
Oh my God.
The Pennsylvania Leadership Conference is still scheduled to go on,
No mask, please.
Yeah. So
anyway, so that's all coming down the pike, which you're going to hear more about this stuff. To give you some specifics about what's actually happening on the ground. So we find out, I shouldn't say we, I was not involved with this. I was away, right? One of my colleagues, Mike in particular, is the one who brought it to my attention. That at the beginning of the summer, clerical staff, like secretaries, right, or the ones who have their desks that you go up and you approach them and you say hello to and you ask them questions about stuff, right? And sometimes in some offices, there's a lots of clerical staff, right, that are kind of working there. They were told that they were going to get these plexiglass dividers that it was going to protect them from, people coming in, right? So that was the plan. But as the summer goes, nothing's happening. And then you start finding out from the clerical staff that guess what? They're not going to get their dividers. The university said, no, we're not going to do that. Right? They're going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on these owl dystopian classroom.
And also another thing that people really aren't talking about. It's the transmission of this disease through the air, especially through air conditioned buildings. Not just
Yeah. I mean, we go ahead. So here's what happens.
Your glass dividers aren't going to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens? What happens in this situation? The clerical staff find out that no, they're not going to get it, right? Mike Gambone, who you've heard me talk about on the podcast before, a friend of mine who's a union activist at Kutztown University, right? He raises it. And what he starts doing is he starts building a plexiglass divider himself for the secretary of the history department, right? And offers it to some other clerical staff too as well. And then asks our union president, right, and our union vice president who runs the meet discussion, why is this happening, right? And after that happens, after the public shaming takes place, right, then and after a meet and discuss meeting where this is brought to their attention, suddenly there's an email that comes out from the facility person. Oh, there's a miscommunication. No, they can get their plexiglass dividers, right? But you read down the next paragraph. What does it say? As long as it's approved by their supervisor and a vice president of the facilities and all this. So they have to go through a bureaucratic process that's going to make it difficult for them, as opposed to just saying, no, we're going to do this. This is the problem. So now it is up to those secretaries to prove and provide evidence, right, that it is justified that they get a plexiglass divider, right, as opposed to the university saying, no, to keep people safe, everybody gets these, right? Freaking my grocery store can do it. Right? I go to the grocery store and they have it because they know. It's not just to protect the customers, it's to protect the workers. But they don't give a shit, is really what it comes down to. They don't give a shit. So that's number one. Number two, Kutztown University, over the past about 10 years, has cut, I believe it's around 30% of its custodial staff. Right? They cut to the bone, right? They've been doing it with faculty, but they do it even with staff even more, right? They cut those people to the bone, right? And now in their little get back to campus plan, they say regular cleaning is going to be done. The problem is, you heard me raise it on the podcast before, has been okay, how? Who's going to do that? You've just cut 30% of your staff. They're already at capacity. Who are you bringing in? You going to contract out for this service? How often it's going to be done? When is it going to be done? Is it going to be after every class? Right? No answers. And they latest kind of discussion at our meet and discuss, they didn't have any answers to that. We'll get back to you. 6 weeks out from the beginning of the semester, which they say we're going back in person, we'll get back to you. Right? They're playing with people's lives. I've got information from somebody who contacted me kind of outside of the faculty chain, right, about some of the crap that's happening in the custodial staff, right? They're not being provided with adequate personal protective gear. They are being told just to go do your job. And when they ask about how we're going to be protected, they're told to get back to work. That's really what's going on the ground. So what do you see on these plans? They're not even plans. They're public relations documents that are being issued by the university. And the one point I wanted to make before we kind of start to wind this up, I've been thinking a lot about this because, like, this is what happens when, as a university, right? I'm just speaking about, I know this happens otherwise. I'm not saying this we're like some freaking unicorn out there. This happens all across industries. But when you've said the university is no longer about education, it's about a business. So we're going to treat it like a business. We're going to we're just like any other corporation, right? And you ask what's the product that you're selling, right? And when they say the product that we're selling is not even an education, right? Because an education is a little bit more amorphous, right? Teaching critical thinking skills. Say we're selling critical thinking skills, or we're like kind of deep thought, or kind of reflective thinking, or kind of like deliberative practices, right? Any of that kind of stuff, theoretical knowledge, historical knowledge. If we're talking about that stuff, the bean counters don't like that kind of stuff because it's hard to measure, right? That's why we have a standardized testing regime in this country, which is about, things that are measurable, not things that are important. But, okay, so if we say we're selling that product, that education, and we mean education to have a well-rounded knowledge of all this other kind of stuff, if we mean that, it's one thing. But that is not what these folks said. Administrators have consistently come out, and now we have a chancellor who's doing the same thing. When they talk about education, right, they're meaning a degree. They're selling a degree, this piece of paper, right? And the means for getting there, because they forget about the faculty members, right? Because the faculty members are the ones who actually own that knowledge that they're actually teaching in the classes, right? That's the education. No. They just want them to meet these kind of particular outcomes so they can check off a box so they can get this degree, and we sold that to that student, right? Just like in every other industry in this country, the workers, in this case faculty members, fall out of the equation, right? We are the barrier to their product. We are the unfortunate condition of their product as they see it, right? So what was happening at Kutztown University and other universities in the PASHE system and across the country, right, has been, we're not just selling education, we're selling the college experience. The experience of college. So that's why they can justify hundreds of thousands of dollars in a PR campaign in order to rebrand the university, right? And I remember this is like 10 years ago. We had the president of our university was talking about, investing money. At the time, they were cutting faculty member. They were investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in campus beautification and signage, right? Because they were selling the experience. They were creating the image that they wanted to be able to put in their public relations documents to sell that experience, right? We have always raised as a faculty union that issue is like, no, this is about education. This is not just a college experience. And if you invest in buildings and beautifications and not in your faculty members, you're going to hit a crisis moment. Well, here we are. And this is why so many campuses in PASHE and other campuses, especially state colleges across the campus, have been defunded by the Republican legislators. This is why there's such a crisis right now, because those administrators have bought into it's not about education. It's not about the faculty who are important for this process. It's about their experience. Well, guess what? If students can't go back to campus, that experience is gone. Their own value as administrators is gone. Their own value of all the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars spent in campus beautification is worthless. And they, as individuals, are worthless.
The on-campus apartments?
That's right. All that crap, all that money, all that investment, and all that bullshit they've been handing us for so long, right, is now come home to roost. Because the people who really matter to the education, right, you don't give a shit about, right? And now you got to try to convince your students that, oh, you come to our beautiful campus. Oh, wait, our campus is Zoom. Our campus is Zoom. Sorry. What a waste. What a waste.
And also like the thing that like what's already happening with like Penn State and other schools coming back, like students returning, like the townspeople are gonna be fucking pissed.
Dude, state college residents already, they're gonna be like with pitchforks and torches.
Like, do you want these kids coming back to your campus, drinking at the bars, and then or throwing parties and having super spreader events like on a local level? Like, I mean, because that's exactly what like these university like it is like. It's amazing how like we're not learning from the 1918 pandemic, which just like everything got shut down, and like why things weren't worse because they shut the schools down.
Yep.
Like one of the first things they did was they shut the schools down. Like and now we have a system that is so reliant where people are so broke where they can't afford daycare,
right?
And sending their kids to school is the alternative.
And this is where we're at.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's
So that's, I mean, this is kind of where we're at. So one of the things I mentioned earlier on in the show today was that going to be doing kind of some additional programming throughout the week, because I've come to, I mean, again, part of it just because where I'm located, right, is that this whole idea about reopening and the return to campus, right? This whole idea about getting back to normal that keeps on, that things are defining, between now, and this is going to be, I think, a defining characteristic between now and the election. At the same time that you have the shock doctrine policies that are being applied to the austerity policy, you find, we talked to Brian Bailey on this podcast not too long ago. We had a third of the faculty members at his college are basically being eliminated, right? So this is happening across the country. This is not unique to Pashe. This is not unique up there, but this is the result of 40 years of Republican ravaging of our country. So I'm going to have a second podcast once a week. I'm going to try to bring on folks that are going to talk specifically about some of these stuff from different angles on this. So my goal at this point is it's probably going to be Wednesday. There might be a Monday if I can get that rolling. It'll be shorter than this one, right? So you're probably going to about a half an hour podcast. Have people on to kind of talk about what's going on, but also to have people that are kind of like pushing back on this for those folks, for example, with Lehigh Valley Stand Up. So doing a little bit of shorter versions of that. If that goes well and I can manage that, the third thing that I'd like to kick in was the live call-in show. We'll see if I can do that. Most likely at first, what's going to happen is I'll use that as a substitute, once a week. If I don't have an interview coming in, we'll do the live call-in show instead, and I'll try to alert people ahead of time. But we're gonna go for that. So look for that coming up. I'm gonna probably do a similar process that we did for our members before. That I'll probably do some kind of beta testing, so to speak, of that just on our Patreon site. Remember, you go to patreon.com/rcpress. You become a member for as little as $5 a month. And we'll do some beta testing with that to see how that's going to work just in terms of the streaming and everything like that. I really appreciate people's comments about how things, what you think we should have on the show, and suggestions for guests that we should put on the show. So I'm going to have a mechanism to do that too as well. And that, what I was just describing there, what's happening about the reopening stuff, the return to campus stuff, is really what spawned this to kind of like give my own self a kick in the ass to kind of, to get this done. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and it's just time to bite the bullet and get it done. So know that's coming up. Anyway, anything else before we hit to this week's last call, Sean?
No.
He's like, I'm done. I'm out of here already.
I'm like hungry.
I'm hungry. I wonder why you're hungry. All right. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We remind you, become a member. So it's $5 a month. Go to patreon.com/rcpress today. Look us up. We'll be back right after this quick break with this week's Last Call. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. For the past 7 years, Raging Chicken Press has brought pull-no-punches, progressive reporting and commentary to the interwebs. Our long-form investigative pieces, stories that no-access journalist wants to touch, or rollicking weekly podcasts strive to advance progressive movements and perspectives rooted in the struggles happening across the country or down the street. We've broken national stories and caused our share of discomfort in the halls of power. If we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. And you can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We need to make sure to keep the movement in the media and the media in the movement. Best way you can do that is to become a member of Raging Chicken today by going to patreon.com/rcpress. Thank you for your energy, your encouragement, and your support. Keep up the fight. Welcome, everybody, back to this week's Last Call. Raging Chicken's Last Call. We're going to make this quick because Sean is hungry.
No, I'm good. I'm just Sean I'm picking on like my peanuts that are on the
Sean's hungry to stop listening to me talk about Pashi.
Yes, that exactly.
Yeah, which is why again we're going to move that.
You were
elsewhere.
like, I felt like I had to like rein you in, and I was like, okay, there's a couple points like if you didn't like, you were just teetering on that edge of like
I had my
going off on like.
You couldn't see it. But I saw it. I know where I was going.
Okay. It feels like, no. I mean, when you get talking about this, it feels like you can just go off on a tangent and boom, there's 20 minutes.
Oh, I could, believe me.
Oh, I know. I just like.
I actually think some of this stuff through now. I have like little points that I want to get to. So it gives me like little points along the way. So, okay, check.
It's like that Menzingers video. With I don't want to be an asshole anymore. Like, be nice to people.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, listen. I mean, a couple things I'll throw in. There's some really cool space news this week that I'm just not going to get to. We'll bring it in next week. The short of it is that there's actually you've got multiple countries that are kind of launching, kind of like do things. The United Arab Emirates, for example, launched this first ever program to Mars, which this is the first time they ever launched anything, which is pretty freaking amazing. And again, read Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars trilogy, because the role that the kind of Arab world plays in that is really significant in really interesting ways. And to see the UAE actually do this, I was like, oh my God, Kim Stanley Robinson is a prophet, not just a sci-fi writer. But anyway, so there's that kind of cool stuff. There's more things that are happening with the moon missions. There's going to be a launch coming up from Boeing. So remember, there was the SpaceX Starliner. I'm sorry, the SpaceX Crew Dragon successfully launched humans out to the space station, which we talked about. Well, the Boeing test with their Starliner is supposed to happen fairly soon. It was supposed to happen, well, I guess we're in the window right now, but they're targeting, I believe, the 30th or the end of the month in order to see that happen. So there's a lot of moving parts right now, and especially some of the ways that NASA is pushing out or its programs are. So I'll get to that stuff next week. But I will say, here's one of these moments where actually I start to feel bad for people that try to do things pretty well. Now I'll say this. I'll say this right off the top is like I don't have first like hand experience with this exactly. So Free Will Brewing, you've heard me talk about this before. They opened up this big outdoor area, had everything really spread out. They I guess they rented field or kind of bought additional field like behind the brewery where they had picnic tables spread way out. They had people monitoring mask use. I guess if you're going to reopen, you're a bar, that kind of stuff, you're probably the best case scenario. They also went out and put put out a statement in support of the protests around Black Lives Matter, right? And I gave them props for that too as well. And to see now that they've been having to shut down because of the coronavirus again, because you have these new regulations that are putting in place by Wolf, should have everyone super pissed off at those kind of like those freaks that refuse to wear masks, because they are impacting our community, right? And they're impacting places like Free Will. But Free Will, boom, as soon as they as Wolf dropped that, they had kind of updated their guidelines for what they're offering and that kind of stuff. So please, if you can stop by and support them, freewillbrewing.store, you can still order online and pick stuff up there. They have some limited kind of outdoor seating and that kind of stuff. Some things have changed, so check out their website or check out their Instagram page for all the kind of updated stuff. They do, however, this week have a new release. A new release it's a brand new one. It is called As Is Ever So. Okay, I'm already intrigued. It's a 4-pack. It's a hazy pale ale. It's brewed with oats, hopped with sultana, cashmere, and sabro. Notes of tropical white gummy bears, Sean, lemon, and tangerine. So that is available in 4-packs and $13 a 4-pack. Remember, you can go to freewillbrewing.store. You can order there and pick it up at the store, or you can have it shipped kind of anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania, which is pretty awesome. If I want to give one more recommendation, it would be for their Cosmic Friend. The Cosmic Friend is really nice. It's an Imperial IPA with grapefruit. It comes in at a 10% ABV. It's super good, and they'll have that available too as well. But you can see all their offerings that are happening right now: cans, bottles, and other merch that they have available at freewillbrewing.store. So check that out. Yeah, I had that. You know what? I had one thing that I had on their vacation. I have to say they have this blueberry cobbler. Sean, I'm telling you, is so freaking good. It's so freaking good.
Nice.
But it's not available right now.
I was gonna say Pizza Boy added a canning line, like permanently added a canning line. So they took out that whole entire back corner where those long tables are at, and they permanently installed a canning line.
Really?
During this pandemic, yeah. So
That's
they've been producing a lot of cans, and last week they canned their Trung Latte, which is a 2%.
I love that. That's one of my favorites. I love that. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's a 2% coffee milk stout with Vietnamese coffee in it, and it is absolutely phenomenal. I didn't realize, like, I had it once before, and like one of the times, like it's one thing to be able to brew like a good beer at like 5 or 6%, or like do like a really clean tasting, like. But it's I bought it yesterday just because I needed to see what it's like. So that was pretty good. Nice.
Again, apologies for people watching the stream or like before or after, live or otherwise, and people listen to podcasts. Looks like we got dropped real quick, but we're back up again. So again, I think this is one thing to deal. That's awesome. That actually I had that first time I ever had that. I had that on tap at Free Will. I'm sorry, at Pizza Boy, the Trung Latte. I fell in love with that. I was actually out there for a union meeting, and I swung by there to pick up some cans and or pick up some stuff. And I sat there and I had one of those before. I was like, boom. That is
yes. I had one last night. I almost forgot that I had it until I had it last night. I was like, yeah, I had this beer before, and it's fucking great.
Yep.
Like it's nice seeing like that they do that, and it's good seeing like Al shift his business around, which is like like he's making his money mostly selling stuff like from the food and all there, but also like, you know, the pizza you can make a lot of money on, that type of stuff.
Yep.
So I mean, like with the food sales declining and this pandemic, it seems like he switched his business plan around, and he's gonna be just selling beer, like cases, or like he's distributing a lot more. So expect like stuff to be hitting all different parts of the area.
Oh my god,
of the state. So
amazing.
I mean, he's upping his can production to where like wholesalers and throughout the state should be getting more. So
that is awesome.
Instead of just like teetering with it, he went all in, invested in a permanent canning line, and yeah. So that was pretty good.
I think you're seeing it happening more and more as these business models shift. I mean, this happened. New Trail did a very similar thing, right? They moved to. It was interesting to see they moved to a new brewery, right? And we're going to put emphasis on their canning, and especially under COVID, they were like, okay, we're gonna really ramp this out, and they started producing a whole bunch of new beers that they're expanding their distribution areas, which I was really surprised. The bonus I had about being up in the mountains for a week is when you go through Dallas, there's a place called J&J's Bottle Shop, right? And they have shout out to J&J's, and they carry great local stuff, like especially from kind of northern Pennsylvania, northern central Pennsylvania, and kind of like southern New York. So you can get stuff kind of on there. And New Trail is one of the ones that it was the first time I ever had it was there when I picked it up there when I was going up the mountains. And I don't know, about a month ago when I was there, they said, yeah, they're coming out with some new ones. We should have it soon. We're waiting for it. So I was able to grab a couple of those, and I got a chance to try their Bomb Pop IPA, right? Which was pretty good. I mean, if you're looking for, here's kind of the cool thing about it. It was like the Bomb Pop IPA. It's like an IPA, like, yeah, it's IPA. It's not super strong, but it's a really nice kind of summer drinking beer. That was a great one. But the one that I was dying to try, and I was very happy to have, is one that's called Moonlit. And Moonlit is an imperial stout. Comes with ABV. I think it's 9.1 ABV. Really nice. Although I have to say, when I was drinking it, the one thing that I realized about how spoiled I have been by Pizza Boy's stouts is like Pizza Boy stouts are the top of like any stout I have ever had. I have to say. And so, I mean, the Moonlit was a really good imperial stout. But then it reminded me, it's like, man, I'm craving some Pizza Boy. So I'm glad to hear
you know, it's the most important thing of, with the stout.
What's that?
Having the right water.
The right water?
Yeah, having the right water for your for your brewery. No, I mean, it's actually like the mineral content.
Yep.
that's one of the things. Like that's one of the style of beers that's really affected by the mineral content. So.
Well, there you have it. Learn something new every day on this podcast.
Yeah, good water.
Good water. I had to figure out what you were talking about first. I was like, what do you know? Just kidding. All right. Anything else for the good of the order, Sean?
I'll be in my apartment this week.
Oh, yeah. That's I meant to mention that. Yeah, that's awesome. I saw you with the little key jangling kind of story going on.
I've been cooking a lot of different things lately, too. I made a chicken jambalaya last week.
I saw pictures.
That was just like
huge, right? Huge amounts of it too.
I didn't realize like how much how much 2 cups of rice would add to something like that.
Yeah.
And literally like I finished it in a week, but like, yeah, pretty much like that was really good. No, I'm looking forward to I'm slowly moving my things up. What was awesome is like I got rid of a couple of like shitty bookshelves and all because like I have a bookshelf built into a wall upstairs, which is nice.
Love your new poster, by the way.
Oh, the AOC one. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to like just getting up there. It's nice having like a bigger space and stuff like that.
So when are you officially moved in?
I can move in right now if I wanted to.
So you're just like, you're basically okay.
I'm just in the process of just like
gotcha.
Slowly putting everything upstairs. Yeah, I mean like
you are going to have someone help you with your couch, right?
Yeah.
You don't have exactly a great history of backs.
No.
So please be
no,
careful.
I mean like so like the couch has to go up. I'm also going to need help moving like the dresser.
Yeah.
That's pretty much about it. But like other than that, yeah, I'm looking forward to like getting everything up and going. I think I need like a breakfast bar or a kitchen cart to have so I can have like a cutting surface.
Yep.
I don't have like the best counter to cut on upstairs. So like that's like the only thing I probably need to get is just like a kitchen cart that I can put my cutting board on and use that for cooking and stuff like that.
So I had when I lived in Allentown, I was a similar kind of situation, right, where I didn't have a lot of like counter space that was like working counter space, right, because you could do it, but you're running back and forth in different kitchens. So I bought one of those things, and I always tell people this: for whatever it's worth, if you're going to get one, it's worth getting one with like a wood block top instead of a stainless steel. I bought a stainless steel one thinking, okay, that's going to be nice. It'll be easy to clean and all that other kind of stuff. But it ended up when you're kind of doing and cutting stuff on this, it can be a little bit slippery and things like this. Would have been great to have one that was a little bit higher, but actually had the butcher block top. So you actually can cut right on that and clean it. But
yeah, no, I have a really good cutting board. So I can like actually have been using.
Yep.
So like I went out this past week, bought some vinegar, mineral oil, and just like cleaning that thing up and just getting it back up to snuff. Yeah, so like there's that. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be nice. I'm looking forward to getting rid of this fucking corner desk that I have that I absolutely hate.
Yeah.
Because like I have that desk that's like built into the wall, which is nice.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have that like that office space. And no, I mean like the money I saved from not going out to the bars the past 4 months.
There you go, man.
More, that's one thing that has me thinking like, what's going to happen after COVID? Do we go back to like having our lifestyle, like eating out 3 or 4 nights a week and unnecessarily spending like hundreds of dollars a month on takeout food and shit like that?
I'll think some. You know what? I actually, if I had to talk about a positive that could come out of this, one of the things that I would love to see is that it will come out of this is like more outdoor spaces, right? For eating,
more European, like if you're,
I'm telling you, and I've seen that there's been some. I forget where it was. Did you see like this was in?
So Harrisburg extended its outdoor dining.
Yeah. On
2nd Street, like every Saturday in the summer through the end of August now, they close off 2nd Street between 6 and 10.
Yeah.
And allowed like restaurants to have outdoor eating and stuff like that. So
that's awesome. I think there was I don't know if you saw this, it might be in Lisbon, right, in Portugal. They did this actually thing where they're, and this is happening now more in more cities, right? They're realizing, okay, look, one of the ways that you deal with the fact that you can't, congregate inside is to have more outdoor spaces, right? But in order to do that, especially in a city, you have to close off some of the streets to car traffic, right? And which is a double win, right? So you get more outdoor spaces for people, right? Keeps people a little bit safer, but then you also reduce kind of carbon emissions in these particular areas. So they're doing all sorts of experiments with it. And what Lisbon did, I believe it's Lisbon, but they just painted the streets blue. right? So anyone that is like you cannot have car traffic go through, right? They're all blue. So it makes this kind of really cool way of kind of marking the space out without having to kind of do a whole lot of like construction and putting in concrete and all this other. No. You just kind of you make sure the street's in good repair, and then you paint it, right? And you continue to paint it in those colors as a way to kind of do it. I thought it was really cool. And I think about, they've been expanded the dining and stuff outside here in Percy. There's just different parts which could be easy to these different parking lots or areas of space which would be closed off where you have these kind of outdoor spaces, and it provides this kind of like also a space that could be beneficial long term. So we'll see if anything like that happens. But.
And that's like one of the things I like about living where I'm at in Harrisburg. Like, I actually start running again past couple of weeks, which is like something I haven't done in years, and it's actually been weird. Like, I dropped like 10 or 15 pounds, like just from cooking this whole entire time, which is great. And it's just like, okay, so now I'm like back into like running and getting more active, and my back doesn't hurt, which is nice.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see like the stuff that goes on. But no, I'm looking forward to getting my upstairs situated, and then I'll be recording from there next week.
Cool, man. Oh man, it'll be awesome. Ooh, yeah, new digs. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be good.
So what's your backdrop gonna be then? I mean, I'm not that there's anything wrong with the blue couch, right?
So right now it's gonna be a white wall. Uh-huh. Unfortunately, like the wall behind me, like where it's at is plaster. So I really can't be nailing anything into it. I might get like a banner or a flag or something, and like
you could do what you can do is you use this those little sticky things, right? That don't damage the wall. I'm spacing out what the hell they're called. I use them all the time. They're like
for
those
posters and stuff like that.
What's that? For
posters and all.
Yeah, or for hooks or things like this. I mean, I got some pictures like in my house like that. Kind of we do with that is you put these little things. You actually get, if you want to put pictures up on it. This is so far afield, but whatever. That you can buy the ones that are Velcro, right? And so you stick Velcro to the back of the picture frame, right? And then the other one goes on the wall, right? And so you kind of Velcro them onto the wall basically. And when you're done, you just kind of pull down on them and they come off the wall without damaging the wall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so check them out. I mean, I'll send you a thing with it because it's that's the way I've gotten around. I do that at my workspace too as well, where I don't feel like trying to sneak in on the weekends and drill holes into the concrete blocks to hang things up. I do that instead.
Yeah, I don't want to be drilling like fucking holes into the wall.
Yeah, I don't blame you, especially with plaster. Yep.
No, I mean it's interesting seeing like how old the house is too, like getting a feel for it. Like, I still have a cast iron tub. Like, I have an actual fucking tub.
Command strips. Brian Bailey just jumped in and said command strips. So
but no, I'm looking forward to
thanks, Brian.
I'm looking forward to getting that stuff up and running. I bought a frame for the AOC poster, so that'll probably be like on a sidewall. And then I'm gonna get one of my that Circus Survive. I have a autographed Circus Survive poster that I need to get framed. So I can't wait to get that done.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Yeah. Well, hey, man, I look forward to seeing the digs. It's going to be very exciting. And it's going to change the whole like studio feel that we got going on here. It's pretty cool. All right, everybody. So have a good weekend. It is Friday. It's supposed to be hot over a lot of Pennsylvania. Look, we're kind of back in it. Keep up your spirits, keep up the fight, and stay safe. Damn it, wear a mask, please, if you're out there. It's so worth it. And look forward to some information. You'll probably get it mostly on our Patreon site, patreon.com/rcpress, and be posting some plans for the kind of upcoming shows. Since we got Brian kind of watching live right now, I'm probably going to be asking Brian to see if he wants to come back on the show because there's been some significant, pretty crazy developments that are going on out in Ohio too as well in terms of public higher ed. So love to talk with him again, but look for some other folks. There's a guy who actually did some modeling, computer modeling of the spread of the COVID virus at Kutztown University. I've asked him if he wanted to come on the show next week because he just posted a YouTube video about it, explaining those findings and kind of walking us through, which makes it much more kind of publicly accessible, which is awesome. So we'll see if we get Dale on, and his name is Dale Parsons. We'll see if we get him on next week. If not, we'll see. I've got a couple other ideas about folks we can bring on the show. So that's not for the regular Out to Coop. This is for kind of midweek show. So Sean, man, have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing the smile on your face as you move into your new digs, and we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
Take it easy, man.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Thanks for tuning in. It's great to be back on the seat. And it looks like it's going to be nothing but full-fledged organizing and fight back from now till, well, for the foreseeable future, if you want to be serious about it. Thanks, everybody. We'll be talking to you soon. See ya!
But it's not about whether or not COVID-19 is real or not, because deep down, you know it's real. But you can't handle the reality that if for 1 second you take this thing seriously and stop buying into the ridiculous, these conspiracy theories that make you would rather look like a moron and put your family at risk. You would rather engage in the highest level of ignorance and stupidity and allow your family members to die than to come to grips with the fact that you have embraced an ideology and a political party and a political philosophy that is suicidal, that is ignorant, that is rooted in stupidity and bigotry, and now that bigotry and ignorance is going to get people you love killed.